When I stepped out of the Uber, jet-lagged and stiff from a 5-hour flight, I wasn't expecting confetti or balloons. But I sure as hell didn't expect to see my suitcase dumped on the sidewalk, my clothes half hanging out, and a handwritten note duct taped to the front door. If you want to stay here, go back in time and be the man I needed. At first, I thought it was a prank. Some kind of twisted joke by the neighbors. But the door was locked. Deadbolt. And the key I'd used for the past 4 years. Useless. Inside was my wife, Megan. Well, ex-wife now. And apparently her new roommate, Josh, the personal trainer I paid for when Megan said she was struggling with her self-confidence. Yeah, that's how I came back home, to betrayal in broad daylight. But here's the thing, this isn't a story about a man who got cheated on and rolled over. No, this is the story of how I turned everything around. How I went from being tossed out like yesterday's trash to building something she never saw coming. My name's Colton Wade, 36. Systems engineer by trade, stability freak by personality. I wasn't flashy. I didn't post thirst traps or drive a Lamborghini. But I worked hard, paid the bills, took care of my wife, planned for our future. To Megan, though, that made me boring. She was the opposite. Fire, ambition, unpredictability. Former cheerleader turned marketing exec, always looking for her spark. And apparently, Josh was her spark. I'd been away for a 3-week company rollout in Denver. Before I left, everything seemed fine. We kissed goodbye at the airport. She told me to hurry home and send me selfies the first few nights. But after the first week, she got colder. Then silent. No replies. No I love you. Just the gone. Still, I figured work stress, right? She was managing a new campaign, said the client was a nightmare. I had no idea she was managing something else entirely. That day on the sidewalk, I stood there for a full 10 minutes just staring at the door. I rang the bell. Called her phone. No answer. Finally, I drove to my buddy Greg's place. He let me crash on the couch and listened while I read the note again and again. Greg's the kind of guy who doesn't talk unless he has something important to say. And that night, he said one thing. She's not worth your anger, bro. But make sure she regrets the way she treated you. That stuck with me. The next morning, I started digging. I went quiet. No screaming. No drunk texts. Just watched. Waited. Tracked. And that's when I discovered Megan wasn't even trying to hide it. Her Instagram had shifted to motivational quotes about evolving past dead weight. Josh was posting gym pics tagged in front of our house. And worst of all, she had listed herself as single on LinkedIn with some cringy caption about shedding what no longer serves me. I wasn't angry. I was calculating. You see, what Megan didn't know is that I wasn't just some desk jockey who spent his days debugging code and filling out spreadsheets. That was just the surface. What she never cared to understand or even ask about was who I was beneath the routine. I played the long game. Quietly. Steadily. I never needed flash. My victories were in silence. Long before Megan came along, I'd learned a hard lesson, watching my father go bankrupt after trusting the wrong people. Since then, I made a promise. Never be caught unprepared. Never put all your power in someone else's hands. So while Megan saw a safe, boring IT guy who wore the same jeans on Saturdays and brought her coffee every morning, she didn't see the investment portfolio I'd built. The 3 out-of-state properties I owned through an LLC. The early shares I bought in a startup that just IPO'd. She didn't know about the living trust in my name. Or the prenup she once mocked but signed without reading because, in her words, that's not romantic, babe. To her, I was stability. Predictable. Convenient. To me, she was fire, exciting, passionate, alive. But eventually, I realized she was also careless with that fire. Burned bridges. Burned people. Burned me. The moment she left that note, if you want to stay here, go back in time and be the man I needed, I realized she never wanted me to be anything. She just wanted someone new. Someone shiny. And in doing so, she forgot the most important rule of playing games. Never underestimate the quiet ones, especially the ones who already read the rules and owned the board. Now that I had the clarity, I didn't react with anger. I responded with precision. First move? I went off-grid. Megan expected a fight. She probably thought I'd beg to be let back in. Then I'd show up crying on the lawn. But I disappeared. That silence, it unnerved her. I could see it in her social media posts, vague quotes about closure, subtle digs about some people being cowards, and the occasional selfie with Josh looking forced, like she was trying to prove something. I wasn't proving anything. I was preparing. Let's talk about Josh, the guy Megan thought was a better version of me. From what I could gather, Josh was a personal trainer at one of those boutique fitness studios downtown. The type that charges $300 a month for high-performance boot camps and serves green smoothies in martini glasses. He had the abs, the inked arms, and the confidence that came with never having to sit through a budget meeting. But what he didn't have was a past he could hide from me. You see, I had resources, legal ones, private investigators, background check systems, friends in cybersecurity. In my quiet world of numbers and networks, information is power, and I had a lot of both. Within 2 weeks, I had a file. Josh wasn't just a trainer. He was also the kind of guy who'd been sued twice by former clients, one for inappropriate conduct, the other for stealing from the gym locker room. He'd changed cities 3 times in 5 years, always starting over, always looking for the next woman with a credit card and low self-esteem. Megan fit the profile like a glove. But it got better or worse, depending on your perspective. Josh had warrants. Not major ones, but enough. Traffic fines gone unpaid. A couple of bounce checks in another state. A small claims case that had gone to collections and never been resolved. He'd used aliases, modified his last name online. And somehow, Megan thought this was the man who was going to be her fresh start. That was the moment I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not because I was happy she'd been duped, but because I knew how to weaponize the truth. First thing I did was contact a buddy who worked for a private lending group, the one Megan and I had used when buying the house. While she was technically on the deed, I had the mortgage under my name and trust. I explained that I wanted to trigger a review. Quietly. Then I filed a motion to freeze our joint accounts, not the ones with day-to-day funds, but the long-term asset accounts tied to retirement, equity shares, and our joint holdings in 2 of the rental properties. Since she had moved someone into the house, I had legal grounds to claim abandonment of marital duties, especially since we were still legally married and no separation paperwork had been filed. That's when Megan started to notice. She tried to transfer money and couldn't. She called me, first angry, then anxious. "You can't do this, Colton. This is illegal." "It's not illegal," I said calmly. "It's documented." She tried to lash out, said she was going to take me for everything in the divorce. Said Josh had friends in real estate. I just listened, then hung up. Because by then, I'd already filed first. When I filed for divorce, I didn't make it messy. I made it thorough. I submitted security footage from the doorbell cam, showing her and Josh moving things into the house while I was in the hospital. I included the medical records proving my coma, the ER bills, the nurse reports, and most damning of all, the text messages. She had sent some to her friend Rachel, another person who had no idea I was still linked to Megan's cloud backup. Messages like, "Colton's gone. I think I'm free for good this time. Josh says I should take everything before Colton wakes up." Those texts went straight into the filing. By the time Megan got served, her world was already unraveling. Her lawyer called mine, tried to negotiate. But there wasn't much to negotiate when your client moved another man into the marital home while her husband was in a coma. Social media started turning on her too. Not because I posted anything, but because someone anonymously sent screenshots to her gym's client group. Her wholesome, motivational trainer reputation smeared in mud. Josh got suspended from his studio. Lawsuits reopened. And Megan, she tried to save face by spinning it all as complicated. But by now, everyone could see the truth. The court date arrived on a Tuesday morning. The sun was out, but the energy was tense. Megan walked in with Josh at her side, wearing sunglasses indoors, as if that could hide how far she'd fallen. She had a new attorney, one who clearly thought he could bulldoze the situation by painting me as negligent, absent, and emotionally unavailable. Their opening argument was theatrical, to say the least. Megan was abandoned, Your Honor. For 2 months, she didn't know if her husband was coming home. She made a decision to move on. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look at her. When it was my turn, my lawyer calmly placed a sealed folder on the judge's bench. Inside, hospital records, coma reports, affidavits from doctors, timestamped security footage, and synced messages from Megan's iCloud that showed she not only knew where I was, but had actively celebrated my absence. The judge's face turned stone cold. Then came the knockout punch. My lawyer pulled out a timeline poster, the kind they use in federal cases. It showed week by week what I was doing, fighting for my life, and what Megan was doing, draining joint funds and moving in her gym rat boyfriend. Silence followed. Megan's lawyer asked for a recess. Denied. Josh? He left the courtroom. Didn't even stick around to support her. And the judge? He looked her dead in the eye and said, "You didn't just violate your marital vows, Mrs. Reeves. You attempted to exploit your husband's medical crisis for financial gain. This court does not take that lightly." He awarded me full ownership of the house. I retained 90% of the shared investments, full rights to the rental properties, and she was ordered to pay partial legal fees from her personal funds. Megan stood there, mouth open, hands trembling. She'd come in expecting a payout. She left with nothing but her name, and even that was in tatters. Weeks passed. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty. It felt clean, cleared, like the poison had been drained. I had the locks changed, of course, painted the place, had a company come out and steam the carpets. It was symbolic more than necessary, but it helped. Megan tried reaching out twice after the ruling. Once by text, "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Then by email. I was confused. Josh manipulated me. I didn't know what I was doing, but I didn't respond. Because the truth is, she knew exactly what she was doing. She made choices, multiple ones, and she made them fast, the way people do when they think there won't be consequences. But there were. And now I was free. I started over. Quietly, I transferred the rentals into a trust, launched a consulting firm under a new LLC, went back to my routines, the gym, the coffee shop, the walks at sunset. One day, I ran into someone new, kind of grounded, nothing like Megan. We had coffee, then dinner. We'll see where that goes. But the important part, this time I saw the red flags before they had a chance to bleed into my life. Because sometimes the people who throw you out are just making space for you to build something better. So yeah, when I came home and found my bags on the sidewalk with that smug little note, I thought I'd lost everything. Turns out, I'd just been handed the key to something better. Not just freedom, not just justice, closure, and I didn't even have to say a word.